David Patrick Farrell, DPF for short. I've done a lot of work in these spaces with men's work. So what we're doing is really important. We're carrying a light here, carrying a message here. This work is bigger than me, it's bigger than us. And if I live my life fully, it invites men to live their life fully. Massive borders in my life would have started very young.
I've got a feeling that you wouldn't always be able to say that with a smile on your face.
Bullied, beaten up on a six badly and no one to turn to. My only kind of role model would have been my uncle, and then he killed himself. A lot of violence, like arrested numerous times, maybe 50 times. I was offered contracts to kill people, I was planning armed robberies. I didn't care if I lived, didn't care if I died. I had 3 attempts, people trying to stab me. I was going through maybe 600 euros worth of cocaine a day. I haven't had a feeling or emotion my whole life. I haven't cried, I was like 11 years old, I haven't processed anything. I was like, I knew I had to change one thing, and that one thing was everything.
When you said divine intervention, you looked up.
Yeah. We look at our struggles and strifes and we can really alchemize into a positive, and why has this been gifted to me? What can I learn from this? How can I look at this in a different way where it's going to serve the betterment of me? The betterment of me is the betterment of the people around me. My community, my society, my family, all my relations.
Why do some people have that and others don't? Why do some people, quote unquote, wake up? How do we open this one up? When was the last time you cried, brother?
Oh, when was the last time I cried? I just had some tears the weekend just gone. Human work, yeah. Yeah, it was really a beautiful moment to reflect on one of my sisters going through a process and to bear witness to this. And at the moment when it was happening, I didn't cry. But later on, I was sharing with another brother who was there, and the moment just landed with me and hit me of how epic that moment was. We all shared to witness a sister processing herself, surrounded by 3 other sisters, and it was really powerful. It was like childbirth, and some brothers have vocalised that when women rally around each other through childbirth and they just knew exactly what to do, there was no words, there was no analytical process or guiding. They just came together, and I was able to be there and bear witness, and yeah, it really evoked an emotion in me later on, and tears were streaming. I was like, wow, that was such a profound moment, and that was one of the most profound moments I've had in my life, and yeah, it was incredible.
This weekend?
Just this weekend.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I want to give reverence to this weekend and give some context to us completing human work. I guess the first round in the UK. 60 people coming together, men and women. Was it one of your first spaces of that scale, men and women?
Yeah, to that scale, men and women, yes.
So for just even more context, it's about connection. Jack calls it the Remembrance. And just shout out to Jack Villiers right now, just to pay dividends to this man, because did an incredible job of bringing these people together. And Maisie brought him into the centre at the end and really said many words that just were very much felt by me and needed, because it takes a lot to bring all these things to light and to dedicate a lot of time, take the risks, and it just happened what felt like effortlessly, but that just means there was a lot of effort to make things look effortless. So yeah. So what were your reflections on it now we're out of it? And what's your process like coming out of an experience like that?
My reflections on human work? Yeah, it seemed effortless and seamless, but there's a lot of incredible facilitators. We had an incredible team.
What a team.
What a team. The men and the women. Wow. And I vocalised this to you. Working with a lot of brothers through men's work in Ireland, in Europe, in the US. And the brotherhood is always there, but I didn't realise how much the sisters were needed in my life, and I was calling in family, and the way the team just synced in, day one felt like family. I was like, whoa, this is powerful.
Yeah, it felt like we were back together.
Felt like a reunion, yeah. And we've only ever worked with each other once. I was like,
Yeah.
whoa, this is epic, and like this is going to grow. and expand. I'm just so grateful to be part of this unity work that's much needed.
Mm-hmm.
So calling in family, calling in sisters, and the appreciation I have for the sisters who were there facilitating, and it was reciprocal. They vocalised the union with working with brothers, that space, and how much it meant to them, and openly crying and saying they didn't know they needed this, they didn't know they were missing this. I felt the exact same, with incredible sisters. Yeah, I'm grateful. And then my process coming out of this would be self-care, a lot of slowing down, in a hot tub,
Don't mention the hot tub for many reasons.
It was good. It was good to drop in with a hot tub, slowing down, warm shower. I'll be going slow for the next few days and then rejuvenating as I'm back into space holding on Wednesday in Wales. But going slow is important, and remembering what happened, the importance of it.
Do you journal?
I journal sometimes. I journal sometimes. Coming into community, I do retreat after retreats, after experiences for myself. I need a day to rejuvenate me, no phone, on my own, just landing into my body, into my mind, into my space, and then I can go again. But I need to contract, to expand. I do need a day just to recalibrate. Yeah,
well, also hopefully this will serve to reflect, and also anything you want to speak to that was alive for you that the weekend. This could serve as a nice integration piece, just to reflect on it as we do now. For me, it is like an expansion, and a contraction is no doubt going to come. It's like riding an emotional high and low, but it's very stimulating. There's a lot going on, and it's a very safe and supported space. And then we all fragment and go off. So we create a community within that time, and it feels so supported. Yeah, so it's going to contract for me. But yeah, just being mindful of that. So like making sure I also stay connected, and if I can, get in the hot tub with EPF after. That serves. I like to not just have the complete drop off.
Yeah, I'm still feel like I'm in the vortex, and we get to stay an extra day on site. Myself and Chris Geisler, beautiful. Then we got to drive up here to the Druid Ruins, yeah.
Druid Temple,
yes. So I'm still in that space, I haven't really stepped back into, let's say, that reality from the container we created. So I'm still in the bubble, which I'm grateful for. Thank you. But I'm well versed on how to navigate that space when it comes jumping on a train or a plane, and then holding myself, because it's different than what we created in them 4 or 5 days together. I'm fully aware of stepping back into that place.
And what was the significance of having women in this space for you? What did you receive from that?
Well, women are amazing, incredible human beings. Deep love and respect and reverence for women. They're just amazing people, humans, creatures, everything. And holding the space for them. So I was leading some physical combat pieces, and I've led physical combat pieces with men. My background would be martial arts and jiu-jitsu and Muay Thai and boxing. And the women were so in tune. They were feeling it much deeper than I've experienced with men. They were anticipating what was coming, that they were living the feeling out way in advance where the men would be, and they were really tuning into the energy, and there was some emotional releases throughout that, and there was no physical contact yet, but they were anticipating that place. And women were just so more in tune with their feelings and being able to express them more freely, openly, easier, just more accessible for them. So men are a lot more slower to get to that place. Just seeing the power in the women, it's like they're just ready.
Yeah,
just ready.
I felt that.
Yeah,
this ready energy to also just to be all that can be, and be witnessed in that, not hold back from having it to need to look a certain way. Yeah.
If I'm working with men, we need a lot more speaking, analytical processes, the story, the emotional lifeline, or the story. We need to go there most of the time. The process. We need more. I feel men, in my experience, need more guidance.
Sure.
To get to that place where women are just ready. With minimal support, as I spoke at the start, that this sister of mine processed herself with 3 other sisters around her without any guidance. A powerful woman to do this, a powerful facilitator, a deep friend, beautiful human being. And women are just there, where men, I feel men need more guidance.
What happens to you in that space when you're going through a process? And I'd also like you to define what you mean by process, because the word does get used a lot. And for people that don't know, it might give some context. But for me, what's coming up now is that it's hard for me to be witnessed in an emotional, deep sadness, grief, frustration even. Frustration is a little easier. But I always have this overwhelming sense that someone's watching me, and it's harder to just be with it and go there and be sad. And even when it does come, it kind of like, whew, there's something that comes in, it's just like, I don't feel as comfortable to go there when I'm being witnessed.
So I'll touch on what a process is for me, bear witness to it. So a process, what I'd explain, would be when someone has a cathartic emotional release, be energetic shaking, be sometimes physical purging, sometimes a primary recalibration through screaming. So it could be a scream, it could be a cry, it could be even a laugh, whatever it may be, whatever that process is to release what energy is in the body, the emotion, energy and motion coming through the body and releasing in various different ways. And for a process to happen, it can be guided, as we spoke on. Women are already there, so something might evoke through the practice we're going through, a modality we're working with, be it physical combat, be it breath work, be it sound bath, whatever we're facilitating can evoke a process for a person, man or woman. So how am I in that space when it happens? I'm pretty comfortable. I've done a lot of work in these spaces, with medicine work, with men's work, with some unity work. So it's all about the team, I believe. If I couldn't do it on my own, I don't think anyone could do it on their own. It needs to be a solid team around. We need to be synced in, which we did for human work the day before. We were having our own processes. We were doing our own work with each other, so we're really comfortable and synced in. And what happens for me during the process is if I'm leading a process, I have brothers or sisters behind me that I really trust, who are really that are dropping in with me, who would lean in my ear if I was falling short or missing a step or something that I just can't see, a blind spot. Mm-hmm. That a brother or sister might have some advice. They would lean in, speak in my ear, and then it's time for me to use it or not, depending on what circumstances we're in the process, what would serve the person best. So that's a process. I'm comfortable in it. Yeah, it can be challenging. And you spoke on just there about it being difficult to be bear witnessed, to be witnessed in that process. My deepest healing has been with men, in men's circles, in men's gatherings, in men's medicine. I go a lot deeper. I feel like men's energy for me, and that's why I'm a men's work facilitator. It's my passion pledge, my sole purpose on this planet, and my purpose is men, to work with men. So when I'm with men, I can really release. My most cathartic emotional releases have been with men, and the energy is just different. Mm-hmm. And a lot of men I've worked with, they can go a lot deeper with other men. Some men have never vocalised to themselves how they feel. Never, let alone another man, how they feel, let them know how they feel. And especially not in front of another woman, because they feel like vulnerability is a weakness, when in reality, vulnerability is a strength, and I'm learning that. And I've had a process in January just gone where I was in Sardinia, led by an incredible facilitator. There was 20 men around me, and I went through a deep process, and I've done a lot of deep work on myself, and still in that process, it was like an hour and a half long. I felt like I was taking up too much space. I was going through it, and I was like, okay, this is enough. I don't want to be taking anyone's time. But when I'm on the other side, I'm looking at someone being processed, I'm like, take all the space you need, and I'm totally understanding, I'm totally compassionate, I'm holding it for them.
Common.
Yeah, but when I'm in it, it's like, oh, this is too much for everyone, and it's like trying to be smaller and neglecting the fact that this is my time, this is my... So it's an interesting place to be in when you're in that release, like not to take up space.
Well, that takes you out of the release, right? Because it takes as long as it takes, and you have to also surrender and trust to the people there that they can guide it and also communicate to you what the logistics are of that space. Take us back to the why of that.
The why of
the taking up spaces.
Yeah, there's a deep why in it. It's not a guru complex or a God complex or a complex at all, but I find myself, because I'm a space holder, that, not that I have to have it all together, not that, but it's like, how deep does this work go? And the more I'm doing the work, the deeper it goes. I've sat with medicine numerous times, and this process in Sardinia was like just as deep, if not deeper. And I was like, whoa, I didn't know that was in there. So taking up the space was like, whoa, this is like, I'm wasting people's time here. I'm like, no, wait, maybe I'm rephrasing that wrong. It's like, should I be taking this space? Yeah. Am I important enough to take this space? Am I wasting people's time? It's a difficult one to frame, but
it's like, how much time is measured in reference to the worth of you? You know, so yeah.
It's an interesting one.
And how did that go? That process?
It was amazing. Such a release. There was a lot of screaming, a lot of rage came from me. Yeah. So how the process started was we were studying, we were doing a leadership course, and a question was posed to the group. We were all paired up, and the question that was posed to us was, we were learning about the social nervous system regulation, the flight and fright and freeze state. And we were asked to speak to our partner, our accountability brother, what state we feel we're in. And think of our dearest, our closest relationship that's most difficult. And when you're speaking to that person in conversation, which space are you in? Are you in freeze, flight, fright, or you have a regulated nervous system? The question was posed, and my partner spoke on who he wanted to speak to and where he felt he was. Then he posed the question to me, and I was like, there's not really any relationship I have that I want to speak to. There's no one that I want to talk to. And that brought a deep sense of loneliness. And I was like, whoa, there's no one that I want to talk to. There's no one I can feel I can really relate to. And then I brought this up. I wanted to really explore it. So I raised my hand after this practice. As soon as I said, would you like to explore it more? And I said yes. And when I stepped in, I could feel a sickness in my stomach. And that means it's in a freeze state because it affects your internal system, your intestines. It'll be a freeze state, it'll be one of the signs, and I'm aware of it because we've just been studying it. Like, okay, I'm in a freeze state. So I closed down my eyes. I could feel something really moving inside of me, and next of all I started pacing the room, circling around, and this roar came. It was a primal roar. And even though I'm involved in this work, I was still sceptical. I would see these processes happening and I would feel maybe sometimes they're theatrical or dramatic, or not to dismiss anyone's process, but I haven't been through it. And then when I went through it, the screaming, the roaring, the charging, the in and out of kind of consciousness, like kind of dizzy, and it really released so much of me. And then it was a deep process I was going through. And then I ended up physically purging, and it was so needed to go to that depth and level of understanding of this body of work and how deep we can go without any other substances involved, plant medicine or...
So what was going on internally that you could put words to?
It was a sickness. I felt sick. My stomach was feeling really sore.
Do you have to make sense of it?
Do I have to make sense of it? Not really. I know what I released. There was no... They originally started, the question probe started with a story, but the process wasn't about a story. It was about energetic release, psychosomatic release, and that's all it was. I'm not in too long doing this work to really trying to psychoanalyze myself and put a story on it. I've got rid of a lot of stories, and it's not about that. People can get caught in the story. I used to get caught in the stories, but it's not about that now. It's like what my body needs to release, it will release in a safe container with trusted facilitators, with trusted men or women. And that's where I'm at now with it. And yeah.
I have a question about what you would do if you weren't in that container and you felt something moving through and you felt like a sickness in your stomach or the same situation, maybe on a train. Like, what is that process like? Because we don't have access to these spaces most of the time. So what and what I tune into when you speak to that is, yes, I've witnessed and I know what's possible in a space like that. But we can't be waiting until we're in one to process things. But that is a common situation people are finding themselves in. They're waiting. Who spoke to this? Tim Morrison. They were like, his audience and his people that would come to his events were like, can't wait to release at your event. And he's like, why are people waiting to come to my event to release? Something's not going on here. So I'd love to get your insight on that. Like, what would that look like for you to would you do it by yourself? Like, would you call someone up? Like, how would it look for you?
There's a few things I draw on. I've collected a different skill sets and added to my medicine bag along the way. It could be tapping into some breath work, the 9 cleansing breaths of purification, Tibetan Bon Yoga, clearing the channels. That'd be one avenue.
What's it called? Tibetan Bon Yoga?
Tibetan Bon Yoga.
Tibetan,
yeah, so it's 9 cleansing breaths of purification. Tenzin Wagner Rinpoche would be the kind of leading it. Predates Buddhism. It's been practicing that the last few years, so that would be something I would draw on, with the 9 cleansing breaths of purification. Or poetry. I can write and journal and channel through poetry. Can release in a way. Jiu-jitsu. Cold war exposure. And the more I've added, there's more. But the more I've added to it, the more I can draw on one which I feel called to. So I'm not stagnant or dogmatic on which one I have to go to.
Yeah, it's a toolbox.
Total toolbox. Which one I will draw on, I don't know. What one feels right and what I'm called to is the one I'll go to. I've had sensations like this before, and regulating the nervous system through these practices is now something that I've cultivated along the way, along the path of learning this. But still, it was surprising to have that such a release, you know. And the facilitator explained to me, think of boulders of rocks underwater, and you're releasing each boulder, a trauma, an event, a big boulder. And then there's air bubbles, and them air bubbles are trapped underneath the boulders at the bottom. Them air bubbles pop up, and that he explained that release was like an air bubble. So the space that was created from a trauma being lifted, there was still remnants of it that needed to come out.
Talk to me about the boulders.
There's been massive boulders in my life, Chris Geisler. Addiction, criminality, upbringing. I'm 5 years sober, recovered alcoholic and cocaine addict. Massive boulders in my life would have started very young.
I've got a feeling that you wouldn't always be able to say that with a smile on your face.
No, I wouldn't. I'm very grateful.
How does it feel to say that with a, I know you told your story many times, but how does it feel to even communicate that list of things?
Yeah.
And be sat here now and who you are.
Thank you. Thank you for pausing it there and letting me reflect. I'm elated. I'm elated to be in the place I'm in. Joyous. A sense of achievement. Where am I? The last 5 years have been amazing. It's been challenging, but amazing. I'm in a beautiful place of gratitude in my life. Because there was a time where I wasn't. I was in a really messed up place in my life. For a long time. So it would have started when I was about 6 years old. I was 6 years old. I come from a family without any brothers or sisters, just me and my mother, no father. Father would have left, my mother was pregnant and was never in my life. My mother had to work, so I was on my own, looking after myself, or the neighbours were looking after me. Easy target. Bullied, beaten up when I was 6 badly, and again at 8 and 11, black eyes, and no one to turn to. My only kind of role model would have been my uncle, who was 18, I was 7, and then he killed himself, and that was devastating for the family. Really devastating for me. Didn't understand. My mother then grieved through alcohol, which I can understand analytically, mentally, but then emotionally there's a 7-year-old boy there on his own when his mother's grieving through alcohol. So then my next role models after that would have been criminals, drug dealers, gangsters in the local area where I'm from. They had prestige, accolade, respect, money. We didn't have much, so I saw these people as idols. It's who I wanted to become, and it's exactly who I became. So I started drinking at 11, once a week.
What were you drinking?
Everything. Like, I was babysat by my next door neighbour, my mother go out. They thought it was funny to get a 11-year-old drunk. So every week I'd be getting drunk and staying in the house, and so it'd be a mix of all sorts of vase, literally a vase full of WKD, vodka, cider, just drinking it back in one go. 11-year-old boy.
Do you remember those kind of feelings, memories? Like are they there?
They're not online now. I just remember drinking because everyone else was drinking. I wanted to be older. I wanted to be accepted. But in reality, looking back, I think I seen my mother coping through alcohol, so it would have been like a learned behaviour, subconsciously at that time. But now I'm looking back in reflection and with a deeper understanding of it. That's what I was doing.
Of course, you didn't have any other reference for what you should be doing, right?
There was no.
It's very normal for you.
There was no other outlets at the time. And then I would have kept drinking, and 12 years old, I would have got pumped out. I was drinking too much at a party, 21st birthday, and blacked out. Woke up in a children's hospital in Dublin, Temple Street, in a gown, not knowing how I got there, not knowing what happened, no one there, waking up on my own, severely hungover, tubes in me, scared, and it's really scared me, being on my own in this place in a hospital. So much so it scared me that I stopped drinking for about a week. As a child, it was like, oh, I'm not drinking for like a week. Madness. So then I went back drinking, and then started taking drugs. 12, 13, started taking cocaine, ecstasy, some weed, hash. Then I started selling drugs, and started selling a lot of weed. 13, 14, 15. And I wasn't really smoking much weed, but the money I was making, I was buying cocaine. So it was always cocaine, very young age.
So were you in a group? Was it like a gang?
There was some people around me that were not into it, but I was. It just called me. I kind of went on my own venture. Once I started taking drugs, I was like, okay. And just it gripped me.
What was it giving you that you didn't have?
Maybe a warped sense of joy, a warped sense of happiness. But in matter of fact, it was numbing me, completely numbing me. I have a poem. It was like, the cheeky chappy always sniffed up and always seemed happy, but in reality I wasn't. I was just taking just to fit in or just to numb and suppress. Being that kid that got bullied, when I turned 13, 14, I started drinking, taking drugs. It gave me some sense of like achievement, acceptance. I got bigger, puberty kicked in, I became a big lump of a guy. And anyone that ever bullied me, I bullied them back, and a chip on my shoulder came about. And that violent person saved me for a very long time because it was needed. I had no one to look after me, no brothers, no sisters, no father. My mother had to work, so on my own. So I was an easy target when I was young, but when I got bigger, I became that person, unpredictable, violent, a lot of arrests, a lot of drug taking, a lot of drug selling, a lot of violence, like arrested numerous times, maybe 50 times during my youth, arrested. Assault charges, assaulted 2 police officers, threw one down the stairs on alcohol and drugs. Madness, 19 years old. I was looking at 2 years for beating up 2 Gardaí police officers. The week later I went through a house with a baseball bat, smashed through a front door. It was just off the wall, just insane. I didn't care. And it was reputation. How could be the maddest, and it was just living up to this madness. And at 19 I was looking at 2 years for the assault on the guards, 2 years for the baseball bat. I was looking at 4 years in jail, and I was just out of control completely. Cocaine every day, didn't know what day of the week it was, no sense of reality. I didn't know what was going on around me, and I was just loose cannon. was so unpredictable to myself. I didn't know how I was going to react in each instance, and then people didn't want to be around me because I was unpredictable. I was court ordered to do 10 anger management lessons. I had to do a urine sample every week for 6 months for alcohol. But I was drinking 5 days a week. I'd stop drinking for a day, do the test, and then go drinking again. Like, obviously I had a problem. I wasn't aware. I didn't have the insight at that age to realise this is an issue. And then I just kept drinking, taking drugs, and then when I was 23, went through heartbreak and wasn't able to feel that emotion, so smothered that with drugs, escaped to Australia, lived there for 3 years. Yeah, running away from my problems, couldn't feel, so I just kept taking drinking drugs to numb and not feeling. It was really warped, really warped time, and yeah, I had a great life in Australia. I didn't take drugs for 2 years, just drinking, not even heavily, until I just went on a binge for 3 days, blacked out, and then I woke up in Dubai. I was like, how did I get here wearing someone else's clothes? I had a good job, I was managing a bar, had a nice car, a nice house. Picture perfect life in Australia, like without drugs. I was like, I got my life together until the binge, blackout. I was like, how did I end up here?
That one time.
And then I was in Dubai. I was like, I'm halfway home to Ireland, so I landed back in Ireland and knocked on my mother's door. I was collecting the airport from a friend, gave me a bottle of beer. Went to my mother's house, knocked on the door. She was just shocked. She's like, what are you doing here? She didn't speak for like the first hour. Got a shower. Got out of the shower and realised I had no clothes. I packed. I come back to Ireland in September, but I must have been really drunk or out of it when I was packing the bag. In Australia, I come back with a lot of shorts and t-shirts. It's September, it's freezing in Ireland. So I picked up some old clothes, went out, went to the pub. I was handed a big lump of cocaine that night, and I went on a binge for, realistically, that binge lasted about 4 days, but in reality that binge lasted 2 years, and it was just like...
So you didn't return to Australia after that?
I came back and got heavily addicted to cocaine in Ireland.
Talk to me about what you were tuning into. What was the process like for you at that time? Were you aware of how destructive this was? Were you... Yeah, how was your head? What were you thinking at that time?
I wasn't thinking. I was in survival. I wasn't thinking whatsoever. I'd waken up and taking cocaine. I was like, and I would sniff cocaine until I fell asleep. Like, I used to call them bedtime bunts. Warped reality. I was living in such a warped place. There was no thinking. There was no time for thinking. All I was thinking about was cocaine and where I'd get money for cocaine and what I had to do to get cocaine, be it criminality, be it selling drugs, be it debt collecting, knocking on doors for money that people were owed from other drug dealers in the area. I was hanging around some very serious criminals, murderers, gangsters, hitmen, armed robbers. Yeah, that's the lifestyle I was living.
So what do you think happened in that period between going to Australia, where you were functional, you were not drinking so much, not binging, and then that 3-day bender, ending up in Dubai, and then making the decision to go back home? What was that? What, at that 3 years, like, what was that? Was it just the environment that was changing these kind of relationships with drugs and alcohol?
I think Australia was like putting a band-aid over a massive gaping wound. Yes, it was short-lived and short-term success, say, but in reality I hadn't processed any emotions of my upbringing. I hadn't learned to regulate my nervous system. I didn't have any emotional capacity, emotional awareness, emotional literacy. Hadn't processed anything in my life. It was just literally a band-aid over this gaping wound that was just like so gaping. I would still have binges the odd time in Australia, but not to the level I would in Ireland. Drugs were not as accessible, so that's why drugs didn't become so prevalent. But I wasn't really... There was no... Looking back in hindsight, I was just getting along to get along. I was managing a bar, I was kept busy, but there was no work being done on myself. It was just like getting on with it. You know, the sunshine, Australia, a new thing, a new toy, shiny, sparkly, 3 year. But in reality, nothing was happening. You know, I could have been anywhere in the world, but nothing was happening. It was just like going through the motions, and then until 3-day binge, and then had to really go deep into addiction after that. So no, Australia was great. There was no growth. It was just a thing.
What's your relationship like to health?
The health, my health and well-being, key, important, so grateful.
Then?
Oh, then?
What was it like then? Did you have any reference to, were you doing things to nourish yourself? Or was it like food? Like
I was
moving
eating,
your body? Like how did it look?
I've always had a relationship with training in the gym. Lifting weights since like 14. That's always been like a staple in the background, on and off. Boxed for like numerous years. There's always been some sort of physical activity in the background. It wasn't really about like looking after myself. It was just a thing. I've tuned into my body now to be able to look after myself, nourish myself with good food, give myself the right train that will sustain me for a lifelong journey. I'm much more aware of what I'm doing now. Before I was just like grunting, lifting the biggest weights, grunting, fighting in the ring, outside the ring. There was no real process. It was just a thing, But now I'm much more consciously aware of what I'm doing and how it's serving me, and how I will sustain this body in this vessel I've been gifted.
Of course. So tuning back into Ireland, arriving back home, getting back involved with people. Did they know who you were, and you were a name in your area? What was that?
Yeah, I would have been known. I would have been known to be mad, to be loose. Like the amount of fighting I've been through in my life, in the ring, outside the ring, street fighting, assault charges, and then the biggest thing that changed in the shift of people's perceptions, I believe, which was vocalised to me by numerous people. When I was drunk and I beat up 2 police officers, that gave me a reputation where I didn't have to fight anymore because people knew I didn't care. So people wouldn't challenge me. People wouldn't test me anymore. So I was like this warped sense of respect or fear that he's a loose cannon, he's wild, don't approach him. So after that happened, I was never challenged again. So I had a bit of a reputation and a name. And expectation. And I kind of thrived on it, a warped sense of reputation, thinking I was something fearful, just a small little fearful 6-year-old boy who got beaten up and had to become something he wasn't and wear a mask for so long that he became the mask. And then I didn't know who I was. But the 6-year-old boy in there that's fearful, had no one to look after him, had to prove himself and fight for himself. And then that reality, that served me for a long time, that violence, until it didn't, until I'm looking at going to jail. And I'd love to say when I was looking at 4 years going to jail, that it changed after that. But I went to court that day to go to jail. The solicitor said, you're going to jail this day. The judge made a mistake and struck the case out and said he's had to do so much with community service, anger management, urine tests, etc, etc. She goes, he had to change his life. I was in that box, and there's 2 ways into this box. You walk in and you look at the judge, and the door behind you is downstairs to the lock-up cells. And I'm in that box. That morning, my girlfriend at the time had to break into my house, climbing a ladder through the window, find me behind my couch, out of it on drugs, like messed up. I'm an hour and a half late for court. I'm out of my head on drugs, standing in the box ready to go away that day. And the judge made a mistake and struck it out. And I would love to say after that day my life changed and I sobered up, and I didn't. I was 21 this age. It was another 7 years of madness and addiction and criminality before my rock bottom spiritual awakening, dark night of soul, whatever way you want to explain it, where then it clicked. Then I changed.
Just want to take a breath.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, man. Honouring you, because I know who you are now. I know who the man that sits in front of me, right? I don't know who or where you've been and the challenges you faced, but I appreciate you going back there to communicate this, because what it does shine light on is what is possible. So that 7 years, as you just said, and I know I have my own journey with that. I don't know if I've shared too much of it with you, but going to prison at 19, coming out, it didn't teach me anything. It didn't teach me how to not go back in. There was just there was a reference for it's not going to do me any, it's not going to benefit me in any way to kind of go back inside. But I was still crazy. I was still drinking a lot, and I just had a different environment to do it in. when I went to university, but it wasn't really until I got well out of my way and went travelling that things started to change. So move us to that place where those 7 years went on, because you're growing up also, you know, your body's changing, your mind and your psychology, it's all kind of moving in a direction. When was your first kind of sense of responsibility, or maybe lack of, or that awareness? Because really awareness is hand in hand with acceptance, but awareness is the first thing. To accept something, to be aware of it. So like, when was that even a thing, to become more aware of a responsibility that you might have?
So there's a few moving parts in this. I was 28 years old. And at this stage I'd been back a few years from Australia, and as I said, I came back and got really heavily addicted to cocaine. And I was selling drugs, I was taking drugs, I was unpredictable, violent. I was offered contracts to kill people by people who had killed people. I was planning armed robberies. I was €10,000 in debt from cocaine, which wasn't a lot, because considering money was coming in, money was coming out. I didn't care if I lived, didn't care if I died. The situations I was in was insane. I've had 3 attempts, people trying to stab me, knives pulled on me. Ended up in some crazy places with some insane people. The scar in the back of my head is from a man who's now doing 28 years in jail. He was charged with 5 contract killings for, gangland in Ireland. I would have been with him a lot. And it was like a drunken mess, and he threw me at the last table, and people around were very serious people, and I just felt so normal in it because I was wild too. And so that's the kind of framework where I was at. And I was at a party, a session, an after party for about 5 days. It was the 18th of March, 5 years ago. The cocaine ran out, the alcohol ran out, the cigarettes ran out, the MDMA ran out, everything ran out, there's nothing left. And I got this numb feeling, and it wasn't from the drink, it wasn't from the drugs. I've said this numerous times. I got this numb feeling of, like, as you said, when this rush of awareness came in, like this rock bottom, spiritual awakening, dark night of sorrow, as I said, and out of nowhere just rushed in. I was like, I haven't had a feeling or emotion my whole life. I haven't cried since I was like 11 years old. I haven't processed anything. I was like, I knew I had to change one thing, and that one thing was everything. This is my epiphany moment I've never experienced. And I've been on heavier sessions, I've taken more drugs, I've been in stickier situations. But this moment, this came in, this rush of awareness. And I left this session. I slept for 24 hours. I looked for a meeting in my area. The next day I got a bus to it. And then I went to 60 meetings in 50 days. Got a sponsor. Worked a 12-step program. And that changed my life. I leaned in, and it was my lifeline. It was dead or jail. It was the 2 options at this stage. In my life, it was going either way. It was dead or jail. And then this divine intervention came through and guided me towards changing everything, and then I did. Changed everything completely. I had to write a list of the people I owed money to. And I had to around them, and I said, I'm going sober. They laughed. And I wrote down, I paid them all back bit by bit over 6 months. I moved out of my hometown to a new area. I'm still living. They knew me as David that doesn't drink, David the vegetarian, David all this kind of stuff. My body changed, this metamorphosis changed completely, where my body rejected alcohol, drugs and meat at the same time, literally changed on a cellular level. This new version of me came out of nowhere. So 3 weeks I was sober, and I moved to a different town, got a job in a bar. And I used to be going to meetings on my break, and I told everyone asked, do you drink? I said, I haven't drank in years. And I was clinging on for dear life. I thought I was going insane. The real world that we live in now was so foreign to me. I didn't know when it got dark. I didn't know when it got bright. I didn't know what months were cold. So it was a long time I didn't know what day of the week it was. So when I came into sobriety, it scared the life out of me to live, to be here, to be my own head. I seen a drug counsellor, and the drug counsellor said, you need to go home and sit with no phone, no distractions, no TV, no music for a minute. This is the practice she gave me. I went home, turned the TV off, put my phone to the side. About 15 seconds in, I sat in silence with my own headspace, and I was scared of my life. I've never done it before. I didn't know what was going on. All this racing thoughts came in, and it really freaked me out. I was really, really scared. So I put the TV on, I put music on. I picked up the house phone, I was ordering a takeaway. I had my mobile in my hand, and I distracted myself, and the music was pumping in the house. 15 seconds I lasted in my own head. I'd never been there. And it really scared me. It took a lot of work to be comfortable with who I am now and process all the things that were going on in my head. To be sitting for as long as I need, hours. I'm really comfortable who I am with my headspace. But from the early days of my sobriety, I was sleeping 3 hours a night. I was training in the gym 5 hours a day. I was just trying to keep active and busy, but I was so warped and insane.
What was the fear linked to?
I've never been inside my own head. I didn't know what was going on. I'd never been present before. I was living in a different reality than everyone else. I was taking that much cocaine for so long. I was going through maybe €600 worth of cocaine a day. It's like 6-7 bags of cocaine, like 2,500-3,000 euros worth of cocaine every week. There was not a moment that I wasn't on cocaine. As soon as I'd wake up, I'd be on it. Before I go to bed, I'd be on it. Sleeping a couple of hours a night. It was cocaine all the time. So then without that, it was like I didn't know what was going on. I thought it was all a big joke. I didn't know what was happening. And then I was planning armed robberies in sobriety. My first 3 months of sobriety, I went to do an armed robbery 3 different times with guns, and I planned it out. We had lookouts. We had GoPros planning when the Brinks truck was coming in. And we had, like, the guy I was doing was a serious criminal. And we went to do it 3 different times. And 3 different times the police came into the vicinity. We had to call the job off. And I'm like sober 3 months, and I'm still, because I couldn't just step away from that lifestyle. I wasn't just like, oh, I stopped drinking, taking drugs. That lifestyle just disappears. So we had to do the job 3 times over a couple of weeks, and then I was like, okay, this is a sign. This life is not for you anymore. You need to step away from this. And I just cut everything. There was no more. I got really honest with myself, really honest with my sponsor, and then made a decision to change my life completely. And there was no more criminal acts, criminality, a whole new group of friends. Everything changed. It was a long process, but that's where I was at.
When you said divine intervention, you looked up.
Yeah.
Talk about that.
I'm a deep man of faith in God. I'm building a relationship deeply, trying to understand myself with God. It hasn't always been that way. I would have joked and laughed at spirituality, religion, but the more I'm walking this path, the more I'm feeling connected and guided with a strong wind and presence behind me. Yeah, I'm fully devoted. I pray every day. When I wake up, I pray. I pray on my meals. I pray to a higher power, God of my understanding. I'm still really trying to figure it out. But the more I connect, the more I'm guided. I had a dream there, and I actually shared with you. I was at human work, and I had a dream. I was doing God's work, what we're doing with this men's work and unity work. And I woke up smiling like a Cheshire cat. I was like, what we're doing is really important. We're carrying a light here, carrying a message here. And what we could do, and the team we have, and the people we get to interact with and share. This is God's work. I fully believe it's God's work we're doing. In whatever sense we're doing it in, holding space, with ecstatic dance, or whatever it is. Men's work, women's work, unity work. So God is omnipresent in my life and forever will be. And I'm grateful to have that connection.
Beautiful, man. Omnipresent was one of the first words you spoke to. Wow, when we opened up. What does that really encapsulate for you? Because it's present everywhere, right? It's
He's everywhere. God is everywhere. He, she, God is everywhere. He's in every moment. He's in this moment. He's in between me and you. He's in you. He's in me. I'm using he, but it can be she for anyone. It's everywhere. God is everywhere and everything and everything.
The smile on your face, for those just listening, is just like beaming.
God is with us all the time, I believe, in every moment, and how we choose to look at life. We look at our struggles and strifes, and we can really alchemize into a positive. And why has this been gifted to me? What can I learn from this? How can I look at this in a different way where it's going to serve the betterment of me? The betterment of me is the betterment of the people around me. My community, my society, my family, all my relations. Homotakiyas and all my relations. Everything's served. Animals, birds, everything's rippling out. God is everywhere. And when we really look in all the hardest times, God is with us if we choose to see it that way. And that's how I choose to see it. And when I choose to look at it this way, I feel elated and joyful and deep gratitude for everything. And even the tests, even the struggles, is when I can frame it in a way where, okay, why is God gifting me this? What am I learning from this? If you ask God for patience, He will give you struggles so you can gain patience. You ask God for courage, He'll give you tests to be courageous in. God is gifting you all these things to you to move forward, to better yourself. If you better yourself, you can help others. When I'm well in myself and being, the people around me will do well. And then that ripples out, the chain reaction.
Yeah. I feel there's such a sense of that is so true for me as well. You're just braver to say God. And I'm like, I concur and I agree with everything you just said. And I see life like that. I think that's why we connect. I really do. I don't think it's because your story. I think it's because of you and how you see life and how I see you move and the world and the opportunities that there are, just to see the medicine in everything, to see the gift in everything, opportunities. Yes. Oh, my takas. Yes, bro. Okay, so I feel there's a few more pieces in the story. I know we just shifted gears slightly to open up about your connection to the divine and the God sense of the word. I think the awareness, what do you think happened there? And why do some people have that and others don't? Why do some people, quote unquote, wake up or change?
It wasn't a choice for me. I didn't choose to get sober. I didn't choose to change my life. Something came and guided me. And how I would explain how I got it is I was gifted it. And I'm using the gift as best I possibly can to live my life authentically and fully. For people that haven't reached that. And I understand this is like, you can't help someone that's not willing to help themselves. No matter how much someone is struggling with addiction, and you can try and guide them, they have to feel it for themselves, that rock bottom, that omnipresence. And as sad as it may be, some people don't get that. And a lot of my friends, some of my friends haven't got that, with suicide, with drug overdose, with murder. And it's how I choose to look at it. And I choose to look at it as these men had to pass away for me to wake up again, every time. And how I celebrate these men's lives by living my life fully. And if I live my life fully, it invites men to live their life fully. If I show up to events, organisations, gatherings, who I am, celebrating life, celebrating God, it gives people permission to do the same. And people dying by suicide, drug overdose, murder, or lost in addiction, it's people like me, you, and people that are shining bright, they can look at and they say, okay, it's possible. Because I'm grieved deeply. But now I choose to use my grief in celebration of people's lives, to remember them in a way where I'm no use to anyone if I'm sitting in my house grieving, crying. And if that's a process, yes, I understand. But I'm not dwelling and wallowing in it. I've done it before. I choose to celebrate these people's lives by living and fully living and remembering in every way and every step I take, and they carry with me in every ceremony. And this is a part of reality that people will die and pass away in circumstances like I've mentioned. But it's how we choose to look at it. It reminds us that we have this life, we have this breath, we have this body to walk in, our eyes to see the beauty of the world, our hands to touch the beauty of the world, our feet to walk and carry us everywhere, our bodies to breathe us, to carry us. We have this gift. We have to walk with it, we have to celebrate it, and celebrate the people that aren't here by celebrating ourselves and that. It's a difficult one to say with people. Some people get it and some people don't. But I choose just to celebrate it. I don't want to get caught in the loop of why people do these things, because I went there and there's no answer. And there's no answer. There really is no answer, and I've really wrecked my brain with it and racked my brain completely. Why? Was it a conversation? Could I have done more? What I can do is live fully, full potential, and I've talked to you about my potential and our potential, and I haven't even scratched the surface. I'm still in the womb of where I'm birthing and where I can go with this possibility and awareness expanding, and the work we're doing.
What do you think is your potential?
My potential is endless. Our potential is endless. We're boundless and untethered completely. if we choose to be. This is infancy. Not even infancy. I'm still in the womb, as I said. Like, I'm 34 years old. You're 34 years old. We're young men. We talked on this a few times. And I look at men of great respect I have. Like, amazing human being. Men are in this work a long time. And yes, I have a high standard myself, but these men have done this work for 15, 16 years. And it's good to have mentors and people to look up to. But the reality is, they're 15, 16 years ahead in this game. Not ahead, but they're 16 years more skill set developed. I'm grateful to be surrounded and welcomed by these incredible human beings. There's numerous people I could mention, my mentors and teachers along the way. So my potential is never ending and ever changing. And it's like, I know that I can grow and expand and continue that each day by being 1% better, by holding space a little bit better. Incremental changes and how I can hold it better, more contained, safe space for people, and a place where people invited in and feel like they're being invited into a space where they can be everything they want to be.
Yeah, man. Yes, well said. Tuning into that excitement of what life can be like and how much potential is going to unfold if everyone's dedicated to this. And I see that. I see the humility and the dedication and the honouring and the bringing up and the pulling up and the calling in of men and women that are really... this human work was just a representation of that, right?
Yes.
It's not in isolation. It's not like an anomaly that happened. It's like, it's a moment that encapsulates so much stuff and like previous journeying and sitting with and just contribution of so much grief, sadness that's been explored and worked through, like we spoke about yesterday, like whose needs are being met, the sovereign beings that we've navigated life in trying to regain and re-empower, because my power has definitely been compromised. Power of me as a being, just being born into this culture and feeling like parts of that culture and my ancestry and the lineage has been ripped away. It's been pulled away. It's been kind of extracted in this kind of cultureless time in the West. And there's so many people that are standing for something new, remembering something old. And I'm just enlivened to be sat here now speaking to you about this. It just feels so alive within me. And it's exciting because we're young. And what's this going to look like in a decade, 2 decades? And many people can be invited to that conversation. It really is the time. And Holiday played a tune at the weekend, The Time Is Now. Maloko. And I'd forgot about that tune. And I was like, let's make this moment last. Like, what a moment. Yes.
What a time to be alive. And we spoke about this earlier. We spoke about Calais, and because of they work with the Sacred Sons, and Calais spoke about, we are in a space now where we can co-create culture. Yes, some of us may land on tradition, and my Irish roots and heritage and lineages through colonialism has been missing. Our language was outlawed, our clothing was outlawed, our sports were outlawed, and it's been revived. But there's a lot of culture lost because of this, and not just Ireland, across the world. A lot of culture has been lost because of colonialism, whatever it may be. But we are now in a space where we have a worldwide connection, a worldwide community, where we can co-create culture, we can recreate culture, we can make initiations, and we are at the forefront of this, what we can do with it, which is amazing. And I have brothers and sisters from across the world that I get to sink in, link in, drop in for check-ins regularly, and coming together and bringing our own culture, our own new adaptations of culture, and meshing it, merging it into something beautiful where we can all take part. Amazing. Like, such an opportunity to be alive at this time. I think there's such a... And yes, shout out to Jack Villiers for bringing it through. The remembrance, like, that's just not from the experience gone. This is like the lifelong remembrance of what we can connect to and we can bring forward. And all different skills, modalities, lineages, heritage, coming together and celebrating and gifting each other our own different medicines. What a time to be alive.
Yes. It feels like that. It feels like the level playing field that everyone's just coming together to share and to be supported and to give support. Talk to me about what you're creating over in Ireland to bring in a bit of that flavour and MRT.
MRT. So MRT is Men Rising Together. Another abbreviation like DPF, David Patrick Farrell.
And then you can talk about men's work abbreviation.
Yeah, we'll do that too. So Men Rising Together is I'm co-founder of it. My brother Patrick Joseph, incredible human being. I'm godfather to his daughter Kyla. I'm actually celebrant of his wedding, him and his partner. So I get to officiate their wedding, which I'm truly grateful for. A deep, deep brother that I only know 4 years, and he's like family. An amazing human being. So we experienced our first men's circle 4 years ago. Darragh Stewart and Robert Coffick at Inward Bound in Sligo. And we sat around a circle of 20 men from different ethnicities, religion, sexual orientation. And we got to witness and bear witness to these men bearing their souls in front of everyone. And the medicine just in the word and the speech without any other plant medicines, just speaking. And I looked at Patrick looked at me. We knew this was special. So in our fashion, we went to the roof that night, had a cigar, and we talked about men's work and how important it is. A week later, we went on a medicine ceremony. And that medicine ceremony, I grieved deeply for the brothers in my life who passed away. The medicine, my first time sitting with this particular medicine, the medicine said, you need to step forward. You need to share your stories, your poems, your poetry. You need to create men's spaces, men's work. And from that moment, my brother Patrick was with me and we talked and we discussed, and we've created this organisation 3 years ago. It's been amazing. It's an amazing journey. So we have events. Every 2 weeks we have an online presence, an online circle. Every 6 weeks we have a physical event, be it a hike or a gathering, workshop. It's been amazing. But in all honesty, in this time in Ireland, we're a bit behind. And I can see that because I get to travel the world with different organisations and see what men's work is like in the US or the UK or in Europe. And it's a lot further advanced. You know, in USA, men's circles are like a norm. Every week, brothers that I know will go to a men's circle. Like they go to church, or it's like a regular thing, it's just ingrained in them. Same as the UK, it's more prevalent. In Ireland, it's just not so prevalent. So we're like, I'm not going to say the spearhead at the forefront, but we're one of creating community. And it's the best outcome could be is we can get men into that space, 20 men. They'll come in, get a skill set, learn from what we're providing, and then ripple out and create their own circle. And that's the best outcome. We're giving them space and permission to create their own circles in their own community. So we want this to really impact Ireland, which it has been. We hike this year. We are going to hike the highest peak in every province: Ulster, Leinster, Connacht, and Munster. So it'll be Carrauntoohil, Slieve Donard, Lugnaquilla, and Mulray, which is the 4 highest peaks. So our mission statement this year is to bring men to the highest peak in their province in the physical aspect. But in doing so, it's not just their physical peak they're reaching in their area, they're reaching their peak, well, at that moment, spiritual, emotional and mental peak, by gathering with men in community and the talking, walking up with men. With the 52 men in Lugnaquilla in January, it's -10 the top. It's like, and then the reality is 52 men on that day. And the statistics, it's 500 men a year in Ireland commit suicide, which is 10 men a week. And that's just a staggering, sad statistic, but it's true. 150 men won't be there in 5 weeks' time. You know, that's how prevalent the suicide is in Ireland. I'm sure it's the same in the UK and around the world, but it's really a massive scale in Ireland. So we call in men into these spaces to reconnect, back to the remembrance, and returning to purpose is what I believe is what needed. I believe men's work is all about returning to purpose. I think the lack of purpose, the lack of drive, the lack of being aligned to who they are, who they want to be, who they came here to be, is when they go into addiction. Drink, drugs, criminality, or just a loss, whatever may be their addiction. And you don't have to have your purpose, but being even in the pursuit of your purpose is a purpose. So that's what I believe is returning to purpose. And men sometimes don't even realise the lack of purpose they have when they're so ingrained by mind-numbing TV or whatever it may be that they're numbing themselves with, or going along and they're cogging the wheel, just going to work, coming home, repetitive cycle. And men have vocalised in their spaces that they'll be 50, 60. They would say they've lost 30 years, 3 decades, because they weren't tuned in, weren't aware, weren't present. And now they're coming back to their purpose, their remembrance of themselves. I happened to get it at a very young age, 28, and now I'm facilitating. I'm still learning and growing. I don't have it all, the answers. Some answers for myself. But the men are coming to the place to return to purpose, and it's incredible. And it's really, really expanding and evolving in Ireland, and it's going to be... I want it to be the exact same. My expectation is I would like men's circles to be weekly in Ireland. Not held by me, but held by brothers across all of Ireland. And it's the norm to go and vocalise what's happening for them, what's going on. And there's a distinguishing factor between men's circles and men's work that I vocalise on a different podcast. And there's nothing, there's no like levels to it, but men's circles are a gathering. Men gather. And then the work is what we spoke about, processing, deeper work, going deeper. But the circles is where it starts, I believe. Just getting men, gathering men in circle and community to relate. That's the start, and then it goes deeper.
Is Sacred Sons in Ireland? Have they done a few events there?
Sacred Sons has been in Ireland twice. They came for an immersion to the event 3 years ago. They came for an immersion 2 years ago, and then this year they're coming for an EMX, which is a 4-day event, which is August 1st to 4th, which I'll be massively a part of, which I'm grateful for. And I spoke to the co-founders and the founders of Sacred Sons about this. Mm-hmm. I felt maybe a lack mentality when they were coming over, an American organisation coming over to Ireland. Are we being like colonialised in a different way? I spoke to brothers of the organisation. I was really fearful. I was like, okay, oh, it's only kicking off here. They're going to come over and take it all over, and all this lack mentality. It took me like a year and a half with the Sons to really receive their medicine. And the medicine received is my remembrance, coming back to my lineage, my heritage. And that's through meeting brothers from different lineages and heritage and cultures that I've received the medicine. And I was in Los Angeles last year and I met some brothers from the Lakota, Mexican tribes. All was really powerful human beings, and I just realised I was Irish by passport. So I went to bed that night, I prayed to reconnect to Ireland, and I dreamt of a bodhrán and a tin whistle. And I came back to Ireland and I picked up some Irish instruments. I've been connecting that way. And that's the medicine I've got to receive by being able to network and connect with brothers from across the world through this spearhead of Sacred Sons. There is apprehension from other brothers across the world of Sacred Sons coming over, but I fully believe in what they're doing and the medicine they're offering men to. They're fanning the embers of these men into flames to reignite who they are, to reignite their purpose, to reignite their connection to themselves and their lands, which has been amazing to be a part of and to be able to travel the world with them.
What is the difference over there? Is there a hostility, a fear? You just mentioned that kind of lack mentality. What is the trepidation of the Irish people, do you feel, that holds this work at more of a distance? This is what I'm kind of tuning into potentially, because the Irish culture is strong. It's not as multi as what we call over here multicultural, so I'm assuming there's elements there, right, of what's like to allow like influence to come in. That also needs that kind of calling and acceptance of. So is there anything in that, do you think, that makes sense for you?
Yeah, there's two pieces. Well, Sigmund Freud vocalised that the Irish are the only nation that are not susceptible to psychoanalysis, which is massive. It's a big statement to make, which is true.
Wow.
Yeah, which is like we are just like, shut up, put up, get on with it, stoic mentality, sure, be grand, you know. And then it's also the factor of other cultures coming in and taking over, you know. The last time it happened, we know what happened, you know. It was like our sports were gone, outlawed, they're closed. Our languages now nearly disappeared because we were colonialised. So it's like that is still ingrained in us, and it's like men don't vocalise what they're feeling. They just kind of this stoic mentality, but it's warped. So much so, alcoholism is massive in Ireland, which you're aware of, and it's so stereotypical, but alcohol is consumed on the birth of a child, the baptism, the birthing of a child. It's celebrated at weddings. It's also celebrated at funerals. It's alcohol, alcohol, alcohol. Sad, drink alcohol. Happy, drink alcohol. It's just like so, it's not the social norm. But really, it's just as I believe with alcohol, through my experience, it's just drinking through sadness. It's just drinking and suppressing how you're really feeling. Irish men in particular, maybe it's not alcohol or drugs, but they don't vocalise to themselves how they're feeling. They feel like vulnerability is a weakness. Where in reality, when you bring them into spaces with MRT, they can understand that it's actually a strength to be able to express themselves in front of another brother. So we're getting there, and I know and I feel so, I get some solace in seeing how this work can impact people and how vast and expansive it can be by seeing organisations across the world and how many leaps and bounds ahead they are. So I know we can get there if we keep plugging away, keep chipping away. But yeah, it's the men in Ireland are apprehensive and slow to get involved. So we give men what they think they want, but what they need is underneath. So they come in for one thing, but they really get a different thing, and it's a slow burner.
It's entry points, right? It's entry points in how you connect with people, and I guess Sacred Sons must feel into that every time they set up an event at a new space. It's like, what's going to be the touch points of a new culture or a new kind of, and music can be big, right? Like going to EMX in Scotland last year, I mean, you felt that musical influence to really like meet the work with a reverence for where you are. And I think that's also missing from the conversation of men's work. I spoke about it last night. I have this like kind of time and place, and speaking to that when anyone really says, what does it mean to be a man? Like, how do we navigate masculinity? It really does depend on place so much. What about on the flip side of the Irish people? What do you see as the superpower?
We are a loved nation. We're a beautiful, beautiful people. I'm totally biased, but we're loved across the world. We're accepted across the world. We're amazing human beings, and I really mean that. We're wholesome, we're friendly, we're welcoming, we're family, Real traditional Irish things is like the welcoming in, really accepting of everyone. Beautiful culture, and I realised how much I love Ireland when I was in Australia. I came back and I fell in love with Ireland. I keep falling in love with Ireland the more I explore. The people I meet in the west of Ireland. There's an incredible brother called Dermot Ling. He's in the west of Ireland, fluent Gaeilgeoir, fluent Irish speaker. Deep, rich heritage lineage. You can see the man's roots into the land. He looks like a tree, and then connecting with him, like, it's still rife. It's not as tangible as maybe Lakota, Shipibo, or Indigenous, because it's so rife and rich. There's a bit more exploring to do to get to that place, but men like Dermot Ling are carrying the flag and carrying the flame. I'm trying to connect. We've been connecting a bit, but there'll be more connection there. It's there. We have beautiful events. We have Bealtaine coming up in May, the 11th Fire Festival at Ishnock, which is the centre of Ireland. The culture is there, but it takes places like this to talk about, maybe on a podcast, or getting people to know about it, to make it more rich, more alive. We are a beautiful culture and an amazing nation of people, I believe.
Beautiful, man. It's making me want to go.
You are more than welcome.
You have brought like a real invitation. Because of you, I want to explore and embed myself in the Irish culture more. So I'm definitely tuning into that this year. And yeah, it's beautiful when that happens.
I'm looking forward to you coming over.
I said we need to do an Irish series.
Yeah. I could put you in contact with some brothers and sisters that you would love to meet. I'd love you to meet.
Yeah, man. What's the challenging things that you're navigating now? What are things that you still need more work on?
Burnout. I'm fully aware of giving too much and not rejuvenating myself. I'm learning my capacity and what I can hold, how I can navigate in the world without burning out. It's a recurring theme that I'm really honing in on, to slowing down, to giving myself what I need.
I notice as you say this, your voice is slowing down.
Yeah.
Good.
I'm learning to slow down a little bit more. It's needed. I burned out so many times. It's like it's boring now. It's like I can't keep doing this, you know. I'm aware of it, but the spaces like we had at Human Work and when I'm at MRT and a few different organisations, when I'm there, it's not work. I'm alive. It fills me up with so much. But it just happens to be that it's not viable to transition fully, as of yet, into this line of work, men's work. Yet, but it will be. Ireland will be on fire with this in no time. So what I'm navigating is just learning how to slow down, do less, but more impact. You know, that's what I'm trying to navigate.
I do know. Yeah, doing more doesn't necessarily mean working harder. Or achieving more doesn't need to be doing more. What about relationships?
Relationships. I'm a single man. I am a single man. A few years. I could give the cliche, oh, I'm too busy. But I am. It's true. What I'm doing, what I'm building, this mission is so strong that I'm happy to be where I'm at and doing what I'm doing for the mission. Like, if this is for me, is, as I said, my life purpose, my passion pledge, my soul purpose. It's my everything.
Do you think it has a time where you have... This has been really strong for me. It's like, how many years have I really got to dedicate to it before I have to maybe step back from my own well-being, or do you just see this as like your life's, you're on it and it's non-stop? Your commitment, like the podcast is for me, it's like I'll do this till the day I die. That's my commitment. But the men's work feels like there's a season maybe in my life. I don't know. We'll see. And that's just me being completely transparent. Like, dedication is important to me, and saying I'm all in is very important to me. But just also honouring and noticing it takes a lot. Comes at a consequence and also a cost. Financially, time wise, the model for me isn't quite there yet in my body, in my framework in life, to really, and I also feel like to fully heal, it's like the models that we have don't prop that up. They don't cater to it, to the models of capitalism and the money and events and costs and how much people have certain expectations of how much things do cost. I know I'm being quite elusive here, but I feel there's a consequence of money and time. So yeah, I don't know.
No, well, I'm agreeing with you. It's a consequence in so many ways and sacrifices, but sacrificial in a way where it's beneficial for the collective.
For sure.
And I'm happy to carry that burden, that beautiful burden, for this time. There will be a time I'm fully, as I said, it's my life purpose, passion pledge, soul purpose, all of it. There will be a time when I'll have to slow down and create some roots with a partner, children, and it's just not there yet. So while it's not there at the moment, I have everything invested into this men's work. God has spoken to me and said this is my path, and I will honour that path. And at the moment, it's sacrificial in a way, in so many ways, and a sense of loneliness can creep in. And I do a percentage every year, every January, evaluate where I'm at with it. 4 years ago when I started this, I was 90% content in who I am and where I am, 10% loneliness, and it increases every year the opposite way, where it's 80% content, 20% loneliness, 70% content, 30% loneliness. This year I asked myself how I am with it. I was trying to get a percentage and I couldn't grasp it. What came was a word. The word was devotion. It's devotion to this path. And I even know that this work is such a necessity, so beneficial for people, men and women. Men be my priority at the moment, the organisation I'm in, a part of, co-founder, Men Rising Together. That in time, it can't go wrong because I'm living from the heart and leading from the heart. And in that place, nothing I believe can go wrong. And everything will fall into place when it needs to fall into place. And things will come into my life when they're supposed to come into my life. And this moment, my life is the work, the men's work, the human work, Men Rising Together, Embodied Unity, Medicine Festival. All of these things is where my full focus is. And there are scattered things, but they're all the same. It's all service.
I love that, and I'm inspired by it because, as you know, I do get pulled in many different directions with certain different exciting projects and things I've got going on. And devotion's important. When you say yes to something, you have to say no to a lot more. So honouring you for that.
Thank you.
Inspired by that. And I do that. Like the dance, I do that. It's a devotional thing. Like I'm going to be dancing to the day I die. It's like a practice to keep showing up on the dance floor in life, to express, to move my body in ways that don't always feel comfortable. And that is a metaphor. I'm going to take that. I'm going to have a little reflection on it because it's important. And this year has been a big year for me, looking to do less and more of less, to do more of less. Because this time of our lives, there is a lot of opportunity, a lot of places to go, a lot of things that we can do. But I think the wise person picks a few, To master something, you need to go all in on it. It's like a relationship. I think that's a bit of a struggle we're in modernity. And I think young men, women are in that space also, of there's many options for a partnership. But it's like picking one person, dedicating time, really like showing up for that constantly, devotion. How much can you be with something but not lose yourself? I think that is a testament to any relationship, whether it be your relationship to your work or the person you're with.
This work is bigger than me. It's bigger than us. It's bigger than, so these minimal sacrifices of relationship for this time being I'm happy to carry that burden because it's bigger. To be of service in a cog in the wheel or a card in the deck or whatever it may be, whatever you look at it. We're part of something bigger here. Coming together, we've seen it this weekend. The team we had travel from around the world. They know this work is bigger than them. And we're just one organisation.
Yeah.
Part of one organisation. And on the weekend just gone, human work. There's other organisations. They're just part of something much bigger. Coming together.
How do you feel in relation to it? Because your service, you're at service, you're contributing so much. People, I just heard Leif, just the audio he sent you, it's like when you receive that like honouring of, I really showed up this weekend, and you get that reflection from me and other people, how do you let that stay in your heart and not go to your head?
It comes back to sin. Sin. So pride would be a sin, I believe.
Pride would be a sin.
Pride is a sin. So I don't feel proud of myself. I feel accomplished. I feel accomplished, and it's reciprocal. Like Leith would send me a voice now because he's seen me, acknowledged me. You would say it, but I would reciprocally back to you and Leith, and it's that support of not letting pride or ego get in the way. Whereas look what I did. Like no, every single person on the team this weekend did what they needed to do for the benefit of the people that showed up. What I did this weekend was not for me, to get a pat on the back. What you did this weekend is not for you to get a pat on the back. But the collective team brought 60 people through an experience that's going to benefit and ripple out to 60 different families, 60 different societies, communities. That's why we did what we did this weekend. Not for valour, not for prestige, not for accolade, not for... The voice note is beautiful to receive, but it's not going to live in my heart and my head for the rest of my life. I'm going to show up to the next event and just be of service again, whatever capacity that may be, in the kitchen, logistics and operation, facilitating, shopping, whatever it is, whatever part it is just as important as the other part. Whether you're in the centre ring giving a speech, or you're the person dropping people to their rooms, or you're the person in the kitchen cooking, every single person is just as important as the next. And that's what it's about.
Yes. Jack spoke to that brilliantly. He held that very well. Better than I've ever seen anyone do that.
It's beautiful.
I've not seen that before in such a way. How he opened and honoured every person that showed up before it even happened. The words he spoke to, and to really honour what part they're playing in his life. And the piece on how, I shared this with you, around how he spoke to obviously different people, different dynamics, but how he could be of service to them and their family. And that was the family thing that got me, because I was like, God, you just don't hear that. You know, you hear people, you know, I'm there for you, but I'm there for the people that you care about also, that I've never met, that mean things to you. And the emphasis on family was just huge.
Yeah, Jack spoke to another person this weekend about a single mother, and he vocalised to her, I think you were there, and he vocalised, I'll always be there for your son, to be that male role model. And that's so important. Like, I vocalised my story without lack of a male role model, and Jack offering to be that for this person's son, so important. And we joked about the butchering of a phrasing, but it's like, it takes a village to raise a boy, to raise a boy into a man. That's what it takes. I butchered it again.
Both.
It takes both, you know, what it does, it takes a village to raise a boy into a man. It doesn't have to be their father. It doesn't have to be their relative. It just happens to be a man of service, a man of integrity that can help guide boys into being a man. And that's what it's about. It's men's work. Guiding, supporting.
For sure. Sharpening each other. The accountability. And also that you are the people you spend the most time with. And I'm noticing that in that space also. Like how important that is to just keep revisiting. Like, who are you spending most time with? Are you deeply inspired, moved, supported by them?
I think Proverbs 20:12 is iron sharpens iron, man sharpens man.
We've got a proverb!
Yeah.
Finally. It's only taken an hour and freaking 30 minutes.
Proverb dropped in.
Excellent. Iron sharpens iron.
Man sharpens
man. So many things from the book that we don't give the credit to.
There's a lot of deep wisdom in it.
Yeah, man. Any other reflections from human work that you want to speak to right now?
Family. It doesn't have to be a relative. It doesn't have to be in the same country. It's just family. It's community, yes, but it's family. For me, it's family. I feel most at home when I'm in these spaces. I'm sure the brothers and sisters feel the same. Staying in contact, staying in community, creating community, showing up for yourself and showing up for others. Yes, we created a vortex and a container in that space. It doesn't have to be, you said to people waiting to experience that. Create it. The invitation is for you to create it in your own town. Create the circle. Create the space. Create the event. Create the gathering. Do it. Stop holding yourself back. What you have experienced maybe from that weekend or a weekend you've been at, that home, that family, community can be recreated in your own space with people you know or don't know in your own area. The more this happens, the more it expands, the more elevation of collective consciousness is created. Do the thing. Just do the thing. That's the invitation for everyone.
Yeah, I just sprinkle a little bit onto that. A lot changed for me when I started to ask for more needs to be met, recognizing what I did need, knowing that I couldn't do it on my own, and then letting go of those needs ever being met, but also just communicating that and seeing the difference in what people move towards that. Because if people don't know your struggles, your things you do need in life, they're not gonna connect as easy. I think when people can see your humanness and know that you've not got it all figured out, you can just start communicating from that place, and then it's surprising what people do start to show up at the door,
I appreciate what you said there, because I've seen so many people trying to show up in spaces where they're not being themselves, thinking they have to have it all together. The humanness is what's really intriguing and inviting for people. So every time I hold space, I show exactly what's going on in my life, be it financial issues, relational issues, personal, private. It's there, it's in the space. I'm vulnerable to let people know I'm human, and that's what I seen what brothers and sisters did this weekend. As facilitators, I'm human. This is what's coming up for me. This is what's alive for me. I don't have it all together. We're moving parts. We're constantly evolving and expanding and contracting, and that's the humanness of it.
The humanness. We set hot tubs on fire and have to pay ridiculous fines. It's okay.
You're a human being. Chris, you're a human being. Mistakes can be made.
Mistakes will be made, but will never be forgotten. It's okay.
That's how we learn from these spaces. What's the gift in it?
I will never be starting a wood burnt, what was it, wood smoked hot tub in my life again without checking that there's any water in it.
It's just a lesson. It's a learning.
Amazing. What else, bro? What else have we got to share?
I'm just happy. I'm joyful. I'm free and contented. I'm liberated. I'm grateful for every day. I'm grateful for every day, and I really mean that. I mean, what we get to do, who we get to meet, the people across the world. I mentioned it a few times. Through these different organisations, through networking, I get to be sitting here with you. I wouldn't have met you unless I was at Medicine Festival. I wouldn't be with Jack if I didn't go to Sacred Sons. And all different parts. Like, these organisations, yes, they have experiences, but it's the people you meet at them. It's the networking afterwards. It's the community built afterwards. Don't let your experience be your experience and forgotten. Nourish and fan the embers into flames of friendships like we're having right now. This friendship started because I met you at Medicine Festival. You were walking around Peter Bennett. And I was like, who's this guy? And you're like, who's this guy? Now, a year later, we're sitting here doing a podcast. It's like, these experiences are not just experiences to experience. Cultivate the friendships, nourish them, let them grow, let them expand. The network and the ripple effect across the world can bring so much into your life. Don't let the experience just dwindle and go back to whatever we were going back, what you were leaving from in the first place. That's the invitation.
Thank you, man. And the invitation for anyone listening that wants to experience radical support, connection, to tune back into earth wisdom, the mystery of it all, the honouring of the elements. Maybe that's a piece that we've not spoke to enough, but your connection to the land and spirit, and how spirit shows up. Because there's a lot of unknowns, right? And I speak to this in ecstatic dance, how like with a drum beat and a lot of people with devotion, what can be created in that space, you can't measure it. There's so many forces in that space, energies that we can't make sense of. And there are some things I feel can only happen in that space. Like some things can only happen when you surround yourself with a whole load of people who are committing to confidentiality, who are committing to fully participating. Like there are certain forces and energies that we can't measure that happen when you open up a portal of people. How do you make sense of those things and surrender to ever knowing?
God. Back to God. There's so many different ways to get there. There's so many different paths. Like it could be yogic, tantric, plant medicine, men's work, women's work, mixed work. There's so much sound bath, ecstatic dance. There's so many ways to get there, to experience that. My suggestion is try them all. Add them. Try them. Try not to be so dogmatic and stagnant in your growth and believing there's only one way. There's lots of ways to get there. Is it meditation, whatever it is. Add them to your toolbox, something to draw on. Each time you might try something different. Cohort exposure, getting in the sea, ice baths, jiu-jitsu, martial arts, whatever it may be. Try it all. You're not going to be good at it, you're not going to maybe enjoy it, but you've tried it. You know, I didn't particularly like getting choked out for the first few months in jiu-jitsu, but it's humbling and you learn. Cohort exposure, I started with 30 seconds up to 4 or 5 minutes. Poetry, it's flowing and becoming a hollow bone, a channel for God to come through, to speak through me. Try it all. You know, the space can be created everywhere. It doesn't have to be, as we said, waiting for the experience. Create your own. Try it all. That's the invitation. And how do I explain it? Omnipresence. God is in everything. God is in the tantric path, the yogic path, the plant medicine, the journaling, the poetry, the water. He is the water. You know, it's everything. It's everywhere all the time. So try not to fathom and try to understand it. Just embrace it and enjoy it and smile and tip your hat and just acknowledge the fact that we're here, we're alive, we're experiencing it, and just kind of give gratitude. Come back to gratitude and like, you're alive, you're here, you're listening to this podcast, you have 2 ears to listen, you know. The gratitude, music, you can listen to because your ears, all of it. tilt your hat and just say thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm really practicing speaking to people's names, so I'd like us to speak to everyone that was there at Human Work who created such a container. We can go back and forth.
Yeah.
Jack Villiers,
Holiday Phillips,
Holly Roxanne,
Late Hampshire,
Heiss,
Michael Maisie,
Blaze,
Liam,
McClay,
Kelly McLean,
Chris Bookless,
Barry Adamson,
Arctara,
Nandini,
Gavin,
Zach Avery,
Chris Geisler,
yeah, David Patrick Farrell, DPF for short, and Phoebe, of course.
yeah, Phoebe.
What a team, amazing human beings coming together from everywhere across the world. I'm flying out to different parts of the world straight away. It's like, wow. Jack called in a super squad of human beings. Long may it continue, long may it last. Coming back home to Remembrance, to family, to community, to be of service to 60 more people, 100 more people, 1,000 more people, 10,000 more people in a decade long of this human work path journey. Long may it continue.
Yeah. The unification of men and women that do this work together.
Brothers and sisters.
Magical moments. Anything you want to leave us with, brother?
I love you all deeply. I'm grateful that you've listened. If you need me or want to reach out, it's David Patrick Farrell on Instagram. Men Rising Together on Instagram. Reach out, stay connected, tune in. And I already said it, but I love you all deeply and dearly. Thank you, Chris Geisler, for asking me on. Full of gratitude for this friendship and where it will go and how we will keep divinely intertwining and crossing paths through different organisations, through different countries. So grateful to meet in this lifetime and yeah, walking together, how we tread in this world and how you carry your light in moments like this and moments I've seen you in and moments we've connected. I'm grateful for you, brother. I truly, truly am. I love you.
Thank you, man. Thank you. And I just want to speak to how much respect I have for you, for where you've been, for how you've alchemized so much of that. It's deep, deep work that you've done to show up, to transform. Like, please hear this, like when I say, it's like, I have so much reverence and honouring on that and how much you're doing. It's like, it's big, man. It's really big. It's impactful. And I very much appreciate how you communicate, honour your process, and ask for help. And you really embody every value that I hold. And I've come to realise is important. So, yeah, man, I'm just fucking pumped. I'm pumped, man, I'm pumped. Just like effortless time with you and just, yeah, the humour that you bring as well. The sarcasm and the joy. It's epic. Thank you, man.
Thank you, brother.
Chris Guys, the podcast. Jeez. Let's go. Let's give a hug.
Yeah, brother, bring it in for the hug. Nah, that was epic.
Yeah.